Former Detective Howard Woolridge is back in the saddle again, riding his horse from Los Angeles to New York City to bring attention to his cause, which is ending the war on drugs. Howard's t-shirt says, "Cops say legalize drugs, ask me why." And people do. As a former cop, Howard brings unique credibility to the argument that the police should be spending their time arresting drunk drivers and child molesters instead of trying to prosecute Rush Limbaugh and Willie Nelson. A co-founder of LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, Howard also talks to Rotary clubs nationwide, including this one in East Lansing.
Here's Howard Woolridge.
Trevor Greek guy said 5,000 years ago that in war, truth is the first casualty. No less so here. 35 years ago, President Nixon wanted to announce a new policy of prohibition. He knew that that would have a lousy marketing slogan because after 14 years of failure, our grandparents were wise enough to end their prohibition. So he needed some clever metaphor to gather support. And somebody thought up the idea of war on drugs. Because what does that evoke for you? Feelings of patriotism, heroes, victories, and the idea of an America eventually free of these roughly 10 drugs. You know, there are thousands of drugs in America, and all of them are legal, regulated, and taxed, except for about 10. Of course, we in law enforcement have known since day one and continuing through today, this is not a war on drugs. It has always been a war on people. The people of the state of Michigan, the people of Texas, people of this country, we're the ones fighting in this war, we're dying in this war, we're paying for it. We've had well over 100,000 Americans KIA in this war. Killed in action. Usually drug dealer killing drug dealer. A few police officers, a few bystanders are thrown in, a few missionaries get shot down. We call that collateral damage. But make no mistake, this is a war on the American people. I've been doing this for about 8 years. I'm always asked, so Howard, what's your solution to drugs? Ladies and gentlemen, there's no solution to drugs. Mankind has been using mind-altering drugs for thousands of years and always, I believe, will. It's a human condition to use these drugs. Many of us start the day with a cup of coffee. We may end up with a Jack Daniels or a white wine. For that, I want to emphasize that LEAP understands, every law enforcement professional and health professional understands, that these 10 drugs are dangerous, can even be deadly. And that is why we believe that the government should take control of these drugs and regulate them and control them as best as can be done. The bottom line is the drug dealer is completely in charge, is completely managing these 10 drugs. We in law enforcement have always been the mosquito on the butt of an elephant. We don't make a difference. Why is that? Understand some simple basics. That the drug dealer accepts as a condition of their employment death and long prison terms. For 35 years, we've been ratcheting up the penalties, more and more mandatory minimums, to absolutely no effect because of this particular concept. We've arrested millions of dealers. The dealers have shot a good 100,000 of each other, and there's always someone stupid enough or desperate enough to take the place of a fallen drug dealer. And you know, after all of this, after these 35 years and $500 billion of your tax dollars, drugs are cheaper, stronger, and easier to buy than ever before. And again, for my friends at the DEA, this is their pamphlet, Demand Reduction Program, and I quote, working with children, drugs are readily available to America's youth, unquote. Drugs are readily available to the youth of America? What part of a policy where drugs are cheaper, stronger, and readily available makes you want to call up the governor and say, oh yeah, build another half dozen Ionias and Jackson prison systems because it's working so well? Another way this gets our kids killed, it gives them a job option. Should I work for chump change at McDonald's, making nothing, or should I have the glamorous life of a drug dealer where I can afford $300 tennis shoes? Most kids do choose wisely to flip burgers, but every day there are 14-year-olds and 15-year-olds who step up to sell drugs on the four corners of some city, and it gets them killed, and they're killed by another 14-year-old. Both lives are destroyed. This is not good for our teenagers to have that job option. And of course, as I ride my horse across America, I see all these brand new prisons. You know, in Texas, we built 77 brand new prisons under Ann Richards and George Bush, hoping to incarcerate our way out of the problem. So we're sending our felons to brand new prisons, while our kids are often going to older schools, underqualified teachers, older textbooks. So what would I do if I were in charge? I would employ for these last 10 drugs the same principles we use for whiskey, and that is liberty, privacy rights, and personal responsibility. Everybody says, well, what if the sky falls in if you legalize something? Well, we don't have to just guess. The Swiss 10 years ago started a heroin maintenance program where if they could not stay on methadone, addicts were given free or low-cost heroin. And after 10 years, the results are consistent year after year. 60% reduction in felony crime. 70% reduction in HIV, hepatitis, clean needle every time. 2/3 of the addicts work for a living and pay taxes. Nobody's died. I've actually been to Switzerland. I do speak French and German. I've spoken to police officers there. They love it. This program is so successful, it has been adopted in 5 countries, including Canada, which just started a program last month, I believe, in Vancouver. The easy answer for 35 years for your politicians on this issue is what? Get tougher. Let's build some more prisons, mandatory minimums. Let's show these guys that we really mean business. It doesn't do any good, but it has gotten them reelected. I urge you, as citizens, to tell your politicians, contact your parties, tell them how you feel. Old Turkish proverb says, no matter how far down the wrong road you've gone, turn around. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Thank you for your time and attention.